Hey everybody, and welcome to Q&A Wednesday, where I answer the questions that you have about your health and fitness goals. I was trying to get the beautiful sky in the background. It's so pretty out today. It's just gorgeous weather. It's actually super warm, but I have somebody working on my sprinkler system too, so at some point I may have to move. I might get wet. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see if the sprinklers take off. So today I have a really great topic. I really take most of my topics from things that my clients ask or topics that seem to be, relevant at the moment. And although most of us are just freaking out about the quarantine 15 that we've all put on, I didn't, but it's still relevant to talk about supplements and the things that we think may work and whether or not that is appropriate for your situation. And actually, I had a client not too long ago ask me about which fat burner she should use. And of course, this is a loaded question, as you may know, so we're going to get down to the details about what I think about fat burners. But first, let's really quickly, I just want to talk about supplements. Number one, you guys, you cannot out supplement a bad diet. There is nothing that is going to fight off the fact that you ate an entire pizza and drank a pitcher of beer and ate a pint of ice cream last weekend. There's no fat burner that's going to work that off. So really it comes down to whether or not you're doing everything that you possibly can do and then just looking for that extra edge. And we're going to talk a little bit about that, but hopefully you are doing well. I hope you and your family are safe. I'm outside, so it might be a little noisy on my street. It's actually pretty quiet most of the time, but who knows, anyway. And I'm hoping that wherever you live, you are hopefully dealing well with the situation. I know here in the state of Washington, opening up phase 2 is up to each county and some things, and it's kind of frustrating because 3 hours away they're opening gyms and here we can't. So it's just really, it is what it is. I'm just gonna stick with trying to educate you, and hopefully I can help you because it does not require a gym to get healthy. There are things that you can do. For those of you that have ever worked with me, you know that I talk about how nutrition determines size and exercise determines shape. So even if you can't get to the gym, first of all, you still can be active. It does not require a gym. As a matter of fact, I work with a lot of people who are intimidated by the gym, and I start them at home. It's kind of where everybody's had to be for the last couple of months, and it's doable. But really, if you're trying to quote unquote lose weight, which I hate that term because to me it's not about losing weight, it's about burning off fat, you know that it's what you put in your face. And so if you've put on 15 pounds in the last couple of months, you need to rethink your health strategies because, of course, I just posted something to my personal page today. It's a really short article about how the obesity epidemic is actually playing a huge role in those that are actually showing signs and having difficulties with the COVID-19. So you guys got to really pay attention. You can make a difference, at least in your own health. And I think that that's super, super important. So let me find my notes. I've been a little all over the place today. It's been a great day. I'm not going to lie. I've gotten a lot accomplished. But yeah, so I always write notes on this, but we're going to talk a little bit about this. Again, let's talk about fat burners in general. I don't love the fact that they're called fat burners. They should be specifically called thermogenics. And the reason why I say that is because there is no reason that it's going to absolutely 100% target fat. There's a lot of variables that roll into that. And I'm not going to make this too complicated. I'm going to keep this as easy as possible. There are definitely some benefits to using fat burners, but we're going to talk about some downsides to that. But the benefits can include curbing your appetite. Now, to me, that's a little bit of a gray area only because, if you're hungry, you should eat. That's your metabolism. The problem is most of us, when we're hungry, right? So if you don't know the difference between hunger and hunger, that in itself is a problem, and you need to educate yourself a little bit more because if you're hungry, that means your body wants something. But again, you have to feed it the right thing. So that's a big part of it. But a fat burner can help you curb your appetite. It can help boost energy. And you know what? I've been in competition prep seasons where, man, that's the only thing that gets me in and out of the gym because I'm so tired. I'm such a deficit. Throughout that season that I need that extra boost. I don't always use a fat burner as a fat burner. I actually sometimes use it as an energy support. It can help fat be used for energy, but again, we're going to talk about some things on that because if you are eating the wrong things all of the time, your body can't do it. Like there's 3 things that can happen to your body where your body will not burn fat. Number 1, alcohol. right? Number 2, cortisol. So stress, if you're consistently releasing, if you're under a lot of stress all the time, that can actually really prevent you from burning fat, but also in the presence of insulin. So if you're consistently eating a lot of carbohydrates, especially simple sugars, it's really difficult for your body to target fat because it will burn the sugars first. It will burn the carbohydrates first. That is your body's preferred energy product that it will use. So again, there's definitely some things there. So again, just because they call it a fat burner does not mean it will absolutely target fat. It just means it will increase how many calories you burn. Now, from experience and from a lot of the research that I do, really the what it's going to give you metabolism wise is about 100 calorie swing. See, it's really loud out here. I just don't want to be in the house anymore today. That's part of it. I'm tired of being inside. So just bear with me. But you cannot guarantee that it's going to target fat. It may very well just be burning calories of what you've eaten for the day. So again, about 100 calorie swing. So really honestly, if your nutrition is not dead on, it might not be the best option for you. So when my client asked me which fat burner hi Olivia, that I recommended, my first question to her was, how's your nutrition? 0 to 100%, where are you nutritionally? Are you doing great? Are you really struggling? She said, 65, 70%. And at that point, I really don't feel like you should be wasting your money. You need to get your nutrition on point, because there's no fat burner or thermogenic that's going to undo several hundred calories of garbage that you're eating. And remember, a calorie isn't always a calorie. Whole food calories are completely different than processed calories, where your body's going to absorb most of it because it's already a broken down food. The nutrients are already broken down into they're processed, right? Some of them are hyper processed, ultra processed, and so of course you're gonna absorb more of those calories than, say, broccoli, where your body has to break that down, that roughage, and it's a totally different ball game. And that's a motorcycle. Nobody I know. So again, I promise I'll just do indoor next time. There's just too many people in my house. That's part of the problem. So again, you can't guarantee that it's going to burn fat, and it is not a substitute for a healthy lifestyle. There's no magic pill. I really don't care who tells you. I have a really good example of some misleading information that I'll talk about in a few minutes. There's just no magic supplement that's going to outdo horrible eating. Here's the deal. If you may have been able to get away with it in your 20s. That doesn't mean it left you unscathed. If you're eating a lot of garbage, like let's say throughout college, because of course, you're partying, you're away from home, drinking beer every weekend, you understand that that's going to affect you in your 30s and 40s. It's not that you were able to get rid of all of that stuff. Some of that stuff starts to get processed and toxic buildup in your system and in your body fat stores. So when you hit 30, guys, and you start to get that tire around the midsection, that's your body's response to, say, a decade or two of eating a bunch of garbage. So whatever you do, even starting out when you're younger, doesn't leave you unscathed. You actually can have some significant situations happen because you've been eating junk for most of your entire life. And to be honest, that is why we are in this situation, in this pandemic, because it's honestly Mother Nature telling us that the standard American diet does not work. We better get our crap together. I'm not gonna sugarcoat that. It's unfortunate that anyone who is type 2 diabetic, obese, is going to possibly have significant issues with, they're the ones that are going to be in the hospital and on respirators, and that is a scary, scary thing. Okay, so Talon says, how do you feel about fasting? I actually don't have a problem with fasting, as long as you're doing it correctly and following the correct protocol. Unfortunately, some people use intermittent fasting as a loophole. So like if they're doing, say, like the 3-hour feeding period, they use that as an excuse to eat pizza and a bunch of garbage, and that's not the way it works. I would say the downside to intermittent fasting is if you're using a very shortened time period of feeding, especially if you're already a fairly lean person, it's really difficult to get the right amount of calories in there. You still have to eat the amount of calories that sustains your body and what you're trying to accomplish and your output of energy. So, if you're an athlete who is burning, 3,600 calories a day, and you're only eating for 3 hours, and you need to eat 3,000 calories, really hard for your body to break that many calories down in a very short amount of time. So good question there. Okay, so again, this is not a substitute for a healthy lifestyle. You cannot out supplement a bad diet, but let's talk about the cons, because really, first of all, that anytime you take a supplement, you need to do your homework. The FDA does not regulate supplements. They leave that up to the companies that produce them. And unfortunately, that's kind of counterproductive, because there's not a lot of checks and balances in that. So, unless they are running it through separate third-party testing and can prove that what they say is in it and that it doesn't have significant side effects, because sometimes some of those products can actually have side effects just like prescription medication, and in certain circumstances it can actually negate prescription medication, which is very, very scary. So there are some significant side effects that people have had from using fat burners or thermogenics, and it can be anything from anxiety to seizures, believe it or not. You got to know if there's products or ingredients in there that your body's going to react to, and everybody's different, everybody's genetics are different, so you got to do your due diligence. You might even run it by your primary care physician so that they can kind of know what you're taking. But just because it says it on the ingredient list doesn't mean that it has it. There's actually been significant lawsuits over certain supplement companies in the United States where a third party tested it, and not only was the product not containing what it said it did, but it had highly allergenic products in it, including gluten and some other things that people, that could be a very, very scary, serious situation because it's not on the label. So again, you got to really do your due diligence in that. Other things that can be a problem from using thermogenics is if you are sensitive to stimulants, and primarily caffeine is one that's used, but also things like yohimbine. So again, if you tend to be sensitive to stimulants, that is usually part of a thermogenic. So you need to probably start with a lower dose, check the ingredient list, make sure that that's not something that can tend to bother you. I had a client once who was extremely sensitive to caffeine, and in order to get on stage for a bikini competition, we use a diuretic, which caffeine is a diuretic. So part of the product was that it contained caffeine, and poor girl could not sleep all night. She didn't sleep for like 24 hours because she didn't ever utilize caffeine. So again, you just got to know whether that's something that works for you or not. There's also, like we said, we talked about significant side effects. It can, for somebody who has high blood pressure, it's probably not an option because it can actually raise the blood pressure as well. Have been instances of death. That is always something that you have to be very, very careful of, but also realize too that it's a temporary fix. If you're somebody who, if it's working for you, that's great, but if you go back off of it, but you go, continue to eat things that aren't healthy, you're going to go right back to where you were before. So it doesn't solve the problem. It's kind of like prescription medication. It might reduce the symptoms, but it doesn't always fix the actual problem that is associated with it. Okay, another question. Which do you believe burns more calories, anaerobic exercise or aerobic? That's kind of a trick question because aerobic exercise, of course, at the time will burn more calories, right, when you do the activity. But the more anaerobic that you do and the more muscle that you build, the more your metabolism raises around the clock. So muscle is a natural fat burner. The more muscle that you have, the higher your body metabolism is, because your body has to provide energy and nutrients to maintain and keep that muscle. Hopefully that's the question for us that you were looking for. Okay, other downsides of using fat burners are anxiety. If you're somebody who's prone to anxiety anyway, probably not a great idea. It can raise cortisol, and especially if it's a product that you use long term, it can definitely have some damaging effects there. Not the best option if you struggle to sleep. Been there. Sometimes the stimulants, especially if you take it later in the day, can really have an effect on whether or not you can sleep and get quality sleep. And even some people have behavior changes that aren't really great, like irritability, mood swings. So if that's something that you deal with, your goal is never to add to that. You're not trying to exacerbate problems. You're just trying to use this as something. When you're already optimal, this might just give you that little bit of edge. I usually have my clients, when they're competing and they're eating super, super clean, that might be the difference of being able to burn off that last little bit before stage. But for the average person, I don't know that it's the best lifestyle choice, because again, it's not a really great option for long-term use. So, and of course, if you've had any sort of stomach problems, probably also not a really great option for you. So, couple of tips that I have. If you're looking at a thermogenic as a product that you might use, number one, please do your homework. Make sure that you know what the side effects. Whenever you use a supplement, you need to know what the benefits are and the risks, and the benefits should always outweigh the risks. You need to make sure it's a choice, it's an educated decision to use a product of any sort. And again, there's so many options, and you guys, it's expensive. They can be very, very expensive, anywhere from $50 to $120 for a month's supply of a fat burner. So And they don't all have the same ingredients. So again, you got to make sure that you're checking to see that those are products that are not going, their ingredients are not going to bother you or cause you any sort of, you know, you just don't want those side effects. Don't look for shortcuts. Guys, if you can't get your crap together, that's really the first thing that you need to do. You've got to get your nutrition under control. You know, you should be a little more active. This is not a substitute. It's just not going to work. And especially long term, there's no benefit. Remember, whatever it takes to get you to your goal, you have to keep doing to sustain it. So if that's, again, you shouldn't be taking these long term anyway. Maybe before a goal, maybe if you're going to Mexico and you want to put on a bikini, I can see that. But if you're really struggling to get where you need to go because you can't get your food under control, the fat burner is not going to solve that for you. So and don't trust marketing. So here's my quick story. So I was on Facebook a while ago, and you know, I have a lot of people that I'm friends with on Facebook because I kind of use it more for business than anything. But I was really annoyed with somebody posting, and I don't remember what brand it is. Don't even care. Couldn't even tell you who it was. But he posted something about liquid lipo. Now that's not the name of a brand. I know that there's a product that is called that. But what really bothered me about this product, because that wasn't the name, and it was CLAs. That's actually what the ingredients are, which can help with fat burning. But the way that he was marketing it was that it was this magic, you know, it's going to liquid lipo. You just take it and it's going to take off the fat. And at the bottom it said, no exercise necessary. And I laid into him. I was just mad. Normally I don't do that because I don't like confrontation. And, you know, I'm hoping everybody's a little more educated than that. But I said, look, you are not promoting that correctly. That is not how that works. You can't just say, okay, well, you know, you don't have to change your diet or exercise and it's just going to melt the fat. And I said, that's the biggest crock of crap I've ever heard. And you need to not promote it as such because that's very misleading. And then again, unfortunately, because the FDA does not regulate that, they don't guarantee that it's going to do what it says it has to. There's no regulation over that. So if you see something that sounds too good to be true, it's flat out not true. Like, it is too good to be true. So be careful what the marketing tactics are that companies use. There's a lot of products out there. They're going to tell you that they're the best. They're the, you know, they're more expensive because they're a better product. That doesn't mean anything. And you know, you can go in and you can read people's responses and reviews of that. But even then, you know, this day and age, I don't even believe anything anymore that I see on social media or the news for that matter, because it's just too easy to make things up. And then people that want to believe it. So make sure that if it's something that you are choosing to use, that you really do some massive research. Maybe even talk to somebody locally that has used it and had good results before you try it. But realize it's up to you. It is not up to anybody else to make that decision or educate you on it. That is your responsibility. So have an incredible night, you guys. I hope I answered some great questions there. Please, if you have more questions or if you have a different question that we need to talk about, that is what Q&A Wednesday's for. You can either leave a comment below or you can message me directly at Facebook Messenger. Also, if you would like to go back to about 5 years worth of Q&A Wednesdays, you can go to my YouTube channel, Fillmore Fitness, and you can go back through all of those. There's a lot. So have an incredible day, you guys. We'll talk to you next week. That's Q&A Wednesday. Bye now.